You just received food from a food app. The person who delivered it comes back with a gun. Here it is.
In a quiet suburb of Washington State Thursday morning, a knock on the door and a sign of chaos with breakfast.
I put up my hand and I said, hey, stop. You're too close.
Anthony Volino confronting, then ripping a firearm away from his daughter's DoorDash delivery driver from the previous day, who he says returned to demand a cash tip. Police say the driver was arrested for harassment, DUI, and assault. The altercation captured on video from Volino's home.
In the house at the time, I had 4 kids under the age of 4.
As the grandfather emptied bullets from the cartridge, he told his daughter to call for help. Worried the weapon could have been fired at his grandchildren or daughter, who he says ordered roughly $100 worth of groceries the day before and did tip on her phone. It's just the latest run-in involving app-based deliveries that have ranged from the impolite.
It's a nice house for a $5 tip.
A Texas man cursing out a $5 tip on a $20 pizza order, to the disgusting, to even violent incidents, like a Florida woman arrested for stabbing a pregnant customer.
Put it in full mass, very sad and obviously extremely scary. Children are there, they're involved. Family is trying to have a family day. An armed DoorDash driver, who now we know was intoxicated, showed up at a Vancouver, Washington home, demanded a tip, a cash tip for a grocery delivery. It led to a life and death struggle with a grandfather who wrestled the gun away as his terrified family looked on. So the incident took place in the morning of May 28th as homeowner Anthony Volino was sitting down eating breakfast. He was eating with his daughter, grandchildren, family day. 59-year-old Robert Delehant banged on their front door, claiming he was the delivery driver from the previous night, back to collect a cash tip. Volino said his daughter ordered about $100 worth of groceries, used a SNAP card through DoorDash app. She told Delehant she had already tipped him digitally and reminded him that tips can't be applied with SNAP, but the delivery man made it clear he wasn't going anywhere until he was paid in cash. Volino said he was fed up and began approaching to dismiss the man. It's time to leave. That's when he smelled the strong scent of alcohol on his breath. For a split second, I thought about giving the guy a couple of dollars. But when he said, I want my tip, that's when he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, you need to leave. He told KGW News. All right. So in my opinion, the family is being way more patient than needed, even at this moment. This individual has already come back to the house a day later. If the grandfather would not have been there, that means that his granddaughter would have been the sole adult handling such a situation. And they are at least explaining to him where the confusion may be. Explanation given. What else do you want? Well, now he demands a cash tip again. At this point, you have crossed the line, sir, to what I would say is armed robbery. Anytime you go up to someone with a gun in your hand and you say, give me money, typically that's the charge that would apply. So instead of backing down, Delehant allegedly came further into the doorway. The grandfather had to quickly man up to hold the intruder at bay. Quote, as we tussled, remember this is an armed man. As we tussled, at that point he said, oh, it's going to be like that? And he reached behind him. When I saw him reach behind him, I knew he was going for some kind of weapon. I wasn't going to wait to find out what that weapon was. Volino said, I reached behind him and I felt the steel in his waistband. And as soon as I felt the gun in his waistband, my heart just sank. He's fighting. An armed individual came to his home. Quote, the only thing on my mind was I have to get this gun away from him. I'm in a struggle for my life at this point. That's what I'm thinking. It's me or him. The doorbell camera captured the chaotic scene as the struggle spilled into the front yard. Volino is seen pushing Delehant to the ground and disarming him before dumping out the bullets. He then ordered the man to leave and told his daughter to call 911. Stand up, human being. You protected the family. Both men called the police, ironically. And officers arrested Delehant soon after. He's now facing charges of felony harassment, assault, and driving under the influence. During the commotion, the gun never fired, but the grandfather said the incident could have easily gone another way. Quote, I could have been shot. My kids could have been shot. If he would have got his hands on that gun, somebody could have gotten hurt. I can't believe it happened, end quote. DoorDash confirmed that Mr. Delehant was in fact one of its drivers and said he was immediately fired. Quote, what happened was unacceptable and the dash involved was immediately deactivated. The company said in the statement to local outlets, while DoorDash noted drivers are allowed to respectfully remind customers about tips, it stressed it has a strict zero tolerance policy for harassment. Volino said he has since discovered similar incidents involving delivery drivers. That's right. And is concerned about the growing risk for families. Quote, since this incident happened, I have found several incidents online, DoorDash delivery drivers assaulting people. Detroit last year, in Houston. I keep finding these stories online and I haven't seen anything done about it as it continues to happen. Volino said the company still hasn't contacted him and he's now taking steps to tighten security around his home. He also urged families who use delivery service to be vigilant. And that's probably the best advice you can grant under the current circumstance. Now, usually you do get something, sir. You get a press release saying how sorry they are that they have deactivated the individual and they have zero tolerance for it. But the reality is they are typically not held liable because of the various laws that surround their protected enterprise. And they know that as long as they do what's called the minimum liability standard, meaning they have taken certain precautions, they could be minimal. But if they have taken those precautions in their vetting process of the individual based on current law, they likely are immune to direct civil litigation. These are the things that they know. Now, could they do more? Of course, they could do more. For example, there are some apps who will not run additional driving background checks on individuals after they are first hired, or they take a very long time to do so, meaning that sometimes there are people who may not qualify to work for them, still work for them because of that nuance, et cetera. All right, I'm very happy that everything did work out for the family. Nobody was hurt physically. Dear brother, what are your thoughts?
Well, Dr. Richey, I must say, you took a very long time just to express breaking an entry, aggravated assault, and armed robbery, because that's what took place here. Let's not mesh all the words with, oh, this drunk old man came back and no. This is breaking an entry, aggravated assault, armed robbery, and thankfully that grandfather was present in the home, because if it was a lone woman, who knows what could have and might have happened at that point. A lot of things to break down in this one. First of all, why is there a Vancouver, Washington? Well, you already have Vancouver, Canada. That's just confusing. We need to let those things go. Number two, this goes a lot to tip culture, this expectation of being tipped that we have created because companies are not paying their employees enough. They're not paying, and now we, as the consumer, are now also having the responsibility of tipping people as if tariffs and price demands were not enough. Thirdly, this idea that this Uber, DoorDash, stranger policy that we've now also condoned is something we were grown up told not to do. Don't take candy from a stranger. DoorDash brings you candy. Don't get in a car with a stranger. Uber brings you a ride. These are the things that happen. Number four, these companies are creating that false sense of inflation of the employment rate because people work for that. And now they say they are employed when in fact they truly aren't, so much so that this grown man was willing to break and enter aggravate assault and rob somebody with a gun because he needed that tip. That was out of necessity. And last thing, and not last but not least, don't get mad at the tipper. Get mad at the company that doesn't pay you enough.
That's right, and that's why important movements are happening to create at least a framework to pay individuals in service industries, from delivery to waiting tables, which I used to do, to pay them a fair wage. Back in the day when I was waiting tables, I think the minimum wage was $2.15. I think it's about still the same today, because they count tips as the only nuance in the law. They say, well, your tips will give you at least the bare minimum wage of the state.